interview once, and a newspaper was there covering it and everything. And he got home, it was just a bunch of
Oh my god, man!
no audio, the whole thing. Nothing.
Well, let's get this.
Hey
show
man,
going.
it happens to the best of us.
So now every time I'm like, dude, hit record, check it. Did you hit it? Are you sure? Did you?
That's why you got to have another person, man. It really helps to have someone be, just asking questions. Just make sure you got everything.
I hound him till
Let's just skip the stupid intros and just go into a freaking podcast. It's been a freaking long day, so.
Hey, it's all good. You can do the intro, man. We're good. We're here.
So Carrie and what's
Justin?
Justin.
Yeah.
All right. My name is Sid Nick. This is Marcus, and we're joined tonight with the Carrie Thomas Cody from Skullcrawlers and his brother Justin. And tonight we're talking. I mean, he's got some crazy stories.
I've been waiting to hear.
I've been hearing about Keeney and what did you say, Bigfoot too?
Deer Woman
stories, man.
Awesome.
We got some Deer Woman stories. Yeah.
Spooky. Nice.
Y'all got the Deer Woman up there?
Yeah.
Right there on the wall.
Yep.
Yo, brother.
The story behind that was I knew this artist dude, and we just met him, and I was doing a art event, and this guy had all sorts of native style art pieces and Western style art pieces, and amongst them all was sitting this piece up here, and it wasn't finished yet, and it looked like a freaking alien chick with the the antlers coming out, and I was like, what the hell is that about? And he said, I painted this and I took it down to a reservation and not native to our reservation. And he had his native style art there and Western style art. And he had that piece sitting there. It was totally out of the ordinary. It's all blacked out. Yeah. There's no color on it. And this elder of the tribe came up to him and started cussing him out in her language. And she was getting pissed off, saying this is Deer Woman. You don't talk about Deer Woman. You don't paint Deer Woman. You don't reference her or anything. And I heard that story. It's I want to buy that piece.
Yeah,
so that's funny, dude.
I'm taking that.
Yeah, man. Cursed.
That's
good.
That's funny.
Oh, it's all right. Okay, that's good. So I want to hear your. I guess Carrie. Well, he was telling me his. You have some stories to tell.
Sure thing. Yeah, so I found you guys' podcast a while back because I was just looking for native podcasters and native storytellers. And you guys had a whole freaking catalog of stories and stuff. And so I just went through, listened to pretty much all of them. And yeah, it was pretty cool. I was like, man, I want to get on there and tell some stories someday. So here we are. And then I got my brother over here who is an excellent storyteller as well. So yeah. I guess we wanted to start with maybe some Deer Woman stories. Did you guys get a chance to watch Reservation Dogs on FX by chance?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really cool,
man.
Yes, sir. That's awesome. Yeah, because that's filmed, hour and a half away from where we both live.
Oh no.
So
nice.
It was really cool. I know a handful of people that worked on the show, and I'm really trying to get on the show next season. I don't care what it takes because I missed all the casting calls this time around, and I kicked myself for it. But I think on episode 5 they introduced the Deer Woman, and we're like, oh shoot, because at some point they I guess it was that intro scene when she picked up that guy who was driving by or whatever. She's going to Kiowa country. I was like, oh snap, because we're Kiowa, and this is our story, so
Yeah.
we're real excited about that, and the whole family, they watch every episode too, so we got this family group chat. We're just super excited that they gave respect to us, because we feel like this is our story, and seeing it on TV for everybody to see is just really cool. And one of the things specifically that we hear and we tell about Deer Woman is that you don't pick up hitchhikers. We had a story specifically about that, is that there's this haunted highway that connects Carnegie, which is where the Kiowa headquarters is, to Lawton, which is the bigger city in Oklahoma that's nearby. And a lot of Indians, they'll bypass this haunted highway called the Gap, and they'll go an extra hour around just because they don't want to take this highway.
Really?
Which historically there's been a lot of murder and a lot of natives killed on that highway. And now it's kind of commercialized, and they redid the whole thing. It's all nice pavement. You just kind of cruise through. But back in the day, it was just like, like a single lane highway that was just kind of like old and decrepit and whatever else. And so it's still like a lot of natives that just don't go through it. But my dad's aunts, which we just call Grandma Levon and Grandma Carol, this must have been back in the 60s. They always say to never drive down the gap at night. And if you do, don't look back. And that's a common theme that we have in our tribe is like, if you hear something behind you, if you feel something staring at you, feel something, just don't look back because you might see something that you don't want to see.
Oh,
and
geez.
if you do, you'll get crooked face, which I'm sure you guys have heard of that.
I heard that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
like,
that's yeah, I've heard of some people getting it, man. It's crazy. So back in the 60s, they were driving at night down the gap, that haunted highway, in this old Indian car, and just them two, and they're driving. They see this hitchhiker on the side of the road, this old lady who's walking, and she's wearing a shawl over her head, and I'm not sure which one was driving, but they're like, "Hey, you should pull over and let her in." And the other aunt was like, "I don't think this is a good idea."
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
And so they drive for a second and they're like, "No, I'm pulling over." And so they drive up a little bit and they pull over and they're like, "Come on in." And so this old woman in the shawl starts walking up to the car, and then she hops in the back seat. And then all of a sudden they both get the chills, and they start driving, and they're like kind of shaking, and they get this really weird vibe. And one of the aunts says, "Did you see her feet?" And it's like, "Oh no." And he said, "She has hooves."
Oh,
and then so the one driver's like, okay. And so like they just like pulled over, and they're like, "This is as far as we can take you. Thank you." And so the old lady hops out, and they start driving away. And like I said, the common theme here is don't look back. So they're driving, and then they look back and they see this old lady chasing them on foot. It's keeping up with them, going 10, 20, 30, 40 miles an hour. And this old lady's keeping up with them. And they said, "Just don't look back. Just don't look back." And then as they're driving, they hear, and that's that car window. And they look to the side and they see that old lady staring right at them.
Wow.
And they just saw that she didn't have feet. Hey.
Crazy.
Now, his dog, we usually have to lock it up because same thing, man. She'll come in and just start raising hell.
Sorry, guys.
Dude,
So
like
that's-
man, when you knock, man, like literally, I felt like hair starting to stand up because I was just like picturing it. Oh god,
We got a theme
That's
though
terrifying,
going.
man.
We got a
And
theme.
that's one of those good stories to tell when you're on an old like dirt road or something like that. We're
Right.
driving with some friends,
Yeah.
I was
but they
actually,
swear this story's real. So
I was
Wow,
actually with
it's
some
crazy.
friends a while back, and this is back when we used to kind of like just run and like grab some beer and hang out and stuff like that. And we used to take this back road to the next town because where we lived was a dry reservation, and there was no alcohol,
Sure.
all that. So we used to hit the back road, and man, this road is like there's no houses, no nothing, just single lane road, and the road just goes up and down like this,
oh my gosh,
and kind of swerves.
Oh, the old highway.
Yeah, it was the old highway actually, and we used to hit that road, run to the next town, the town that we live in now, and grab some beer and stuff, and we'd head back. And this one night, there was probably about 5 of us in the car, and my older brother was driving the car, and we were on our way back, and we were just pulling up to this place called Twin Gates. And this place is it's literally just 2 posts on each side, and they're like identical. And people go there, hang out, party and stuff. But they also say like there's a lot of stuff being seen there. And we were literally pulling up to that, and it's right on top of one of the hills. And we saw somebody kind of moving like this back and forth, really slow, and kind of hunched over. And we slowed down, and it was an old woman.
oh
And she had the shawl over her,
No way, man.
like kind of like hanging clothes, and you know how grandmas dress. And she was pushing a cart, and we kind of slowed up, like, what the hell, what the hell's an old lady doing, way out here? And my cousin in the back said, "Bro, look at her feet." We looked down. Her
No
dress came to
way,
about her
bro.
knees, she had no legs, she had no feet.
Oh,
There was
man.
nothing there. She was literally like just moving like this and
No.
nothing from the knees down. And dude, we
What?
fucking punched it, started
No,
hauling ass. And my brother, he kind of hit the brakes, like maybe about a mile down the road. And he was like, "Did everybody saw that, right?" Everybody's kind of freaking out. And he's like, "I'm gonna go back." He said he's gonna turn around and go back.
Mhm.
And one of my friends in the back, I'm not gonna say who it was, he started crying. He was like, "I'm not going back."
that is an
Bro,
appropriate
I'm not
response.
going back, dude. He's like, "I'm not going." And he's like, "No, just take me home." He's like, "Oh, we're in the car, it'll be okay." He drives back up there. This dude's in the back, man. You could just hear him back there, kind of breathing hard.
Yeah.
We pull up to Twin Gates, and that cart was just slowly moving and goes off the road by itself, and there's nobody around.
What?
That is like one of the creepiest things that ever happened. And
No,
dude, that story just reminded me of that
That
story.
is terrifying.
I tell you, what's crazy is a common theme with the stories that I know is that it comes from people that are honest, good people.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like Christian people.
Yeah.
Like our grandma Levon and Carol being like Pentecostal old school, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember one time she came to our family camp out in Reservation, and she was telling these stories, and it goes back to what you were talking about. When you're talking about that painting, you don't talk about her.
Yeah.
Because when you do talk about her, there's something that is drawn to those conversations. So she was telling us these stories, man, and she was embellishing them some too. So, but the substance of what she was saying was true. Like she
Yeah.
believed it, but she was still knacking. Me and my brother here are half white, so she's like, "Oh, she especially goes after those half breeds." We're like, "Oh, really
Yeah.
pretty good one."
Yeah.
But I remember like that night because we were camping. I mean, I slept with my covers over my head because I knew when I looked in the trees that something was looking back at me. I mean, it was just after hearing those stories, freaked us. I mean, still to this day, I remember I didn't sleep very much that night because I knew something was watching me.
And
But the craziest thing is that there's always these people that are good people that you don't think are lying to you. That are telling
Yeah.
you
Right.
stories.
yeah, and that's like another thing is you're not supposed to look out the window at night around
Boy.
here. Is it the same
Mhm.
there? Yeah.
You
But we definitely have
yeah.
that adage, don't look back.
Mhm.
Especially
We
when you
had
got that
this,
feeling. You know what I'm saying?
like
you got
that-
that feeling?
Yeah, like not only did we not
Yeah.
not only did we look back, we turned around the damn car and drove back. we
Oh.
we were like way wrong there, dude.
It's kind of funny.
You're
though.
asking for it, boy.
It's
Oh,
kind
yeah,
of funny
that's
talking about native lore though, because where we're from, you can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Like any story that comes out of the tribe,
It's taboo, man.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
taboo, and it's like we started the Urban Legends series like 3 years ago, I think.
Yeah, I think it was 3 years ago when we
And
started that.
so we're just like getting our footing in the like around here, making noise and stuff. People are like getting to know what we're doing and stuff, and we announced that we're doing a Native American like a Urban Legends series and talking about Native American lore.
Yeah.
And we started out with Deer Woman.
That was like number like the
What?
first one.
Right.
Wow.
This guy's like, we got to do this one. I was like,
Are you sure?
Like,
we
yeah,
didn't know how much like response we would get.
yeah.
And we started out with Deer Woman. I bought this painting the same time we had that podcast, and we got a lot of good responses, but we had like a huge backlash.
Yeah.
People saying don't talk about her. If it's not snowing outside, the ground's not frozen, don't talk about her.
Yeah.
And we were like doing it totally out season. And
He was
Wow.
like, I'm gonna still talk about her.
Yeah. You know,
I was
Yeah.
like, all right. I was like,
fortune
okay, all right, well,
favors the
let's,
bold.
it's like, let's do it then, all right, let's
Yeah.
do it, see what happens. And yeah.
No,
And
that's
what's-
crazy.
And what's funny is like, I'd go through like, just to drive through somewhere, and then you're like, oh, hey, you're you do that podcast and all that. It's like, yeah. And like they want to hear more stories like that.
Right.
Mhm.
And a lot of them were saying that we're Native American. And so it's like, yeah, all right, well, yeah, I'll
Yeah,
try. I was like, yeah, we're gonna do that then. So
I definitely agree with that. Is that I feel like a lot more people are curious to hear stories similar to the ones that they heard growing up, and
Yeah.
I don't know like necessarily who thinks that like you shouldn't talk about it. They're definitely probably older people,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Like nothing bad happened to you guys, so
yeah, I mean, we
I
made it
don't
out of
know.
there.
you guys did it first. So I was like, I kind of want to do it too. So.
I remember I was
Yeah,
in high school, early 2000s, the first time that I talked to somebody outside of my tribe about the deer woman, and we're describing stories, and he looked at me just stone cold in the face, like, we've got someone like that in our tribe, the deer lady.
Yeah.
They call her something different, but
Right.
we were swapping stories, like, ooh. So that's the first time that I'd ever heard that, and that was, the internet in the late '90s. I mean, think about it. Oral tradition, oral culture, and how these things have been passed down, and how they've been passed down now with the internet revolutionizing everything.
Yeah.
How we're able to get our information now. I mean, of course there's going to be backlash, but at the same time, like, hearing these stories from other people and how there's so many commonalities between these tribes, it's like
Right.
there's something there.
And that's been like our whole like theory on things, is diving into different cultures, not only Native American cultures, but Eastern cultures and Europe, and trying to get these, because they have similar stories there
kind
too.
of see how they kind of tie together and the similarities and differences to all of them, because there is a lot that kind of, there is a lot of similarities. Like here, like growing up, like the one thing that really creeped me out growing up was goat man. That was the thing around here. And that thing scared the hell out of me, and like actually finally looking into it, I see that story like all over the place, man. Like literally like worldwide. It's
like especially renowned in Hebrew culture.
Okay.
And those areas, because I guess there's like scriptures on it too. Was the goat man was described, well, demons back in the Bible were described as being half man, half goat. And now you see these like in reservations being half man, half goat. But the thing in those scriptures was that they called them satyrs, and they were seen in Babylon dancing on ruins.
Yeah.
And around this time, they were seeing these creatures. The tribe was burning down.
Yep.
There was all sorts of like fires and mishaps and things like that. Then they would see this creature coming out, being like half man, half goat. I was like, does that like kind of relate to what we're seeing in Eastern cultures of being the half man, half goat person dancing on ruins? Like, does that like?
That's very interesting.
I want to tell you guys a story. I never really talk about these kind of things because it's really personal, and I usually only tell family. But I told him that I'm going to start kind of telling, everybody, kind of putting it out there. This doesn't have anything to do with like, like a goat man or, a deer woman or anything like that. But I had this dream, a while back, and I was driving in our the place I grew up is Crow Agency, and I remember driving by the old tribal building, and I remember looking into the tribal building, and it was literally in ruins. It was like all falling apart, and I remember seeing it smoking, and I remember walking into this place, and I was walking through the tribal building. And it was just, literally it was in ruins. Everything was charred. It was burned. And I remember walking to the far end in this big room. And I saw this really, I'm what, 6'3.5". That's how tall I am. And I seen this native dude, and he didn't have a shirt on. And this dude was like fucking yoked, man. This dude was big, and he had real long hair, and his face paint is what creeped me out, because below his face was red, but up above his face, like the top half of his face was painted black, and it looked like it was like running down his face, and his eyes were like really bright, like I could see the white in his eyes, like even though he was standing in the dark, I could see his eyes. And I remember looking at him, and he started choking me. He started really like choking me, and I started trying to pray. It's like Pentecostal Christian, and I started trying to pray this thing away. And I started trying to pull his hand away, and then finally he disappeared. And when he disappeared, the wall behind him, it started falling. And there was a doorway there, and up above the doorway there was a circle, and the circle was lit up. And I remember walking through that doorway, and that's when I woke up. I was like, man, that's such a weird dream, And I remember telling my wife, I was like, I think something's gonna happen, down there in Crow. And a few months later, floods, fires, and the tribal building burned down. and it was like literally it all fell apart. It burned down. And I remember a friend of ours, her name's Nikki Stewart, posted a video on the side of the building, and right on that wall I saw there's a big open door, and up above it a half circle up above it.
Wow.
Right where I walked out. Yeah.
Yeah. It
And
was,
I was I freeze framed it, and I showed this guy, and this guy just literally shaking his head like
it was a funny
I
time
was like,
though.
how
There was
spot
like
on that was.
there
Yeah,
was like a it was a time where, I mean, you probably know how it is, like when tribes transfer over their power to someone else who is going to run the
Yeah.
place, and there was like arsons, there was fighting going on in the
It was a
tribe, people like
clash,
actually
man.
like fighting in the tribe, and-
Standoffs,
It's a
with
mess,
guns.
yeah.
What?
And then, but we
Wow.
moved out. We transferred out of the tribe around then because our family's from Washington,
Yep.
and my dad's from down here. Our mom's side is from Washington, and it's Tulalip tribes and Sox Battle tribes. And around that time, we're transferring out of there. And once we did, then all this this crazy stuff started happening. It's like, man, I'm happy we got out of there at that time, because
Yeah, man.
Wow.
then they started having so many problems ever since then till now. But
Yeah.
yeah, that tribe's still like that. They haven't torn it down, nothing. It's still burnt, and yeah, it's still in ruins. It's like, holy crap, man. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
Wow.
it's starting to, like, they're starting to like come back, and I was like, man, it's like, I know, like, we're not a part of that, enrolled there or anything. It was like, dude, just pray for him, that comes out of that, because man, it was like floods, fires, everything, man. It was just like chaotic. It was crazy, man.
Right.
Right on, brother. I mean, you were
Sounds
right
interesting.
on. That's crazy.
Okay.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Have you
So-
had any other prophetic dreams like that before?
All my life, actually.
Wow.
Wow. Huh. Interesting.
Wow. But I was telling him, I was like, I'm gonna tell a story pretty soon. I said, I don't know when, but this one is nuts. It's insane. I told him, I was like, well, maybe we'll just, do a short video just on that one, built around that one story, because dude,
Yeah.
that story is nuts, man.
Wow.
It's kind of funny though, seeing the contrast between. I mean, we've been having this conversation with everybody. It's how does religion affect these sightings? How does it affect you perceiving spirits? How does it affect I guess your area? Because like when we talk to people, we always ask them, so how do you see a spirit? Like, what is that? And we had some interesting responses.
Like, what do you believe they are?
Right.
Yeah.
We had people saying they're demons, like totally just straight out demons. That's it.
Mhm.
We had people saying they were residual energy, and that if we die, we're just residual. That's it. There's no intelligence to us. There's no, you know what I mean? There's no response to us if someone investigates that area or whatever. And it's been an interesting topic in the past, I guess, season, this past season.
Yeah.
And we've dove deep into whether that's like biblical text, Greek text, different cultures, Haiti. We've gone into voodoo cultures and things like that, and trying to like decipher between what's a demon, what's a deity, and how are these things correlating with each other, and why does it make people have different experiences, and can you explain those with those cultures? And it's kind of funny to see.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I guess I mostly believe. I guess what the standard belief is that I guess if you just kind of have unsettled business or whatever, that I don't know, sometimes your spirit can stay or whatever else. I don't know. I haven't really thought of it that way.
Right.
So that's a good question. I don't know. But as far as like demons and stuff like that, like I definitely believe that they're roaming around. And I don't know. That's a good question. Cody, what do you think?
Yeah, well, whenever I was talking to my brother earlier about it, I think that from the Judeo-Christian worldview, that's the only way to explain what they really are. I think other cultures take a stab at explaining that they are. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Not why that
Yeah.
like they exist. I mean, cross-culturally, I mean, throughout all the world. I mean, think of voodoo culture. I mean, like, why is it that they're so drawn to that?
Yeah.
That they're drawn to that method of, I mean, you think of, I know our tribe was incredibly paganistic before we met the Jesus Road,
Right.
and that was in the mid 1800s before
Mhm.
our tribe had been converted. But before that, I was reading in a book. I don't know. Have you guys ever read Empire of the Summer Moon?
No.
I've heard about it.
That book about the Comanche,
Yeah.
Quanah Parker. But it also includes Kiowa and Comanche. But it talks about how when they got Quanah Parker's mom, what was her name? Cynthia Ann Parker. They rescued her out of the tribe, even though she had been fully assimilated. And what was fascinating about that story is that they moved her to East Texas, and she just always looked out the window longing to go back home. One thing, though, was all the Christians that surrounded her were like, you need to put these things away. These things aren't right. They're not good. And she hated that. She resented them for that. And the reason why is because she had mentioned something about there being like, what'd she say? She said something along the lines of, back home, there was wonder and there was, what'd she say? It wasn't magic, but she said something along those lines, like it was spiritually active, where she didn't feel that where she was back in East Texas. And I was really thinking of that, being a Christian, just thinking of like, man, all the things that they worshipped at that time, the multiple gods that they had sought after, and how they had attributed all this power to whatever things. But the fact of the matter is that they experienced things that nothing else could explain. So just looking at it from different perspectives of culture, like, man, even though we call it something different, it still functions the same way, to the point that we can identify with that with one another. But I think from a Christian perspective of demons, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. When they were ousted from heaven, they know their time is limited. They know their days are numbered, and they're stuck here until judgment. They're gonna deceive it however they can, and they're gonna use their power however people are gonna be receptive to that, which is pretty scary. And the way that it manifests throughout the world, but it's a lot of the similar tactics. You know what I'm saying, with fear and superstition. Anyways, that's all I have on that. But yeah, it's a good question. That's a tough one to answer.
It's always fun to hear everyone's response to that question. And we get so many different responses, whether that's like they're not Christian, they're atheist, or even when they're atheists, they always have that's the fun one to listen to.
Yeah.
Is because even they have a response to that question, which is kind of funny. Because if you ask someone who doesn't believe in spirits, but everyone we've talked to, like some we had that are atheists, they don't believe in God, they don't believe in the devil, they don't believe in, you don't go anywhere when you die. They always have an answer to that question saying, I do believe demons are running around. It's like how have we not asked an atheist this question? Someone who doesn't believe these things.
I actually have a friend that's an atheist, and I really want to ask him some questions, because some of the stuff that comes out of his mouth, he's funny because he's an asshole. He knows he's an asshole,
Right.
but he's a funny asshole. You know what I mean? And he's probably listening to this, so he knows I'm talking about him. But I like talking to him because he's like, dude, you just come right out with it. He's blunt. But I was like curious to ask him, his thoughts on that kind of stuff. But I just haven't gotten around to it.
We wanted to do a series in the future, I guess, capturing that culture.
Yeah.
Whether that's Catholicism from Constantine's time, before his time, because Constantine was the one that took these scriptures out of the Bible in his reign, and I guess to promote his agenda as like a politician, and he was taking these scriptures out and like trying to and putting his own in there as well.
Yeah.
But still, it still remains. Demons have always remained there.
Yep.
Things like demons have remained there. The Catholic Church, like in the way before it was even mainstreamed, they already had their tactics of how to handle demons, which is kind of funny too, because like if you watch, we were talking about this for the podcast too, it's like why in the movies when there's like a horror movie, when there's a demonic possession, like why do they call a priest? They never call the pastor, they never call the prophet or apostle. And it's kind of funny because we've grown up in this I guess this realm of ministers and apostles and things, and everything we've seen, and we've been in a room with exorcisms, like real crazy experiences that we've had.
Wow.
And every time we would experience one of those, it would be quick, fast, within like 10-15 minutes at least. Sometimes it's like 2 minutes.
Sometimes like
gone.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like, why aren't we experiencing these in like the mainstream? Why haven't why is nobody talking about how people like this can cast demons out, and you have all these other cultures who have their methodology on demons, and they take months or years to cast a demon out.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny to see.
Yeah.
I think it's just a standard, like that's how it's always been done in movies, so that's how it's always going to be done. That's probably what it is. You know, it's probably less exciting to see a guy in a normal shirt with just a Bible come in and start praying over the one that's
Right.
possessed. You know, it's not as cool as someone
Yeah.
throwing holy water on him and
Yeah.
reading
That,
scripture,
doing
Latin.
Not
half
as
the movie is the
climactic,
research into it,
theatrical.
and
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
instead of some guy just walked in and it's gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's how it always is. Like every time I've seen it, dude, it's just like wham, you know, and
Yeah.
oh wow, it gets intense.
I mean,
too,
I've
but,
seen stuff like that too, and
yeah,
you know, the things that I've seen is nothing like the movies. Obviously, I mean, they obviously you know, they make it theatrical, they make it intense or whatever. But I mean, even the stories that they made, like the Emily Rose exorcism,
yeah,
whatever. You read that full story, how she had been tormented however long.
yeah.
You could argue that it was mental health or whatever, but the tapes that they had that went along with that,
That's
really
fascinating.
crazy to hear.
Right.
This kind of things that she was saying. It's like that is pretty
Yeah,
demonic. There's no
Yeah, and
other
as
way
what,
of
like a
claiming them.
13-year-old?
It's claiming to be
Right,
demons, you know.
Uh-huh. Like, yeah, how could she have known like half of these evil people
Yeah.
in history
No,
as a
it's
13-year-old without the internet? You know, it's just
Yeah.
crazy to think about.
What's crazy too, though, is I mean, even going back to the Catholic tactic, it had to do with, you know, what we've seen before in the movies, holy water and the power of Christ compels you, like this exorcism, exorcist rather.
Well, I
But,
guess they
how
they did
she
prove that it
died
worked.
that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She was never delivered. So I think
Right.
it's maybe not so much the method as much as the one that they're doing
Was
the
doing
method
it.
in the name of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, anyway, we can go on and that, but it is fascinating though that it has entered pop culture. I mean, that was the 70s that they
Yeah.
did
Right.
The Exorcist, but still, it's something that people are drawn to. I mean, Conjuring. How many of them are there? 9 of them, 6 of them, whatever.
Right.
You know what I'm
like,
saying?
oh,
Like,
what
it's
was that
something that
tie-in?
people
Yeah.
are fascinated by.
Yeah,
Right.
They're drawn to it, and they're spending money on it. So it's like, I don't know, just the way that it resonates with people. I think it's because there's that hint of there's no other way to explain some things that happen in your life. Like you've got an experience, Carrie's got experiences.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to explain that.
yeah.
Justin's got a really good Deer Woman story if you guys want to hear it.
Oh,
yeah.
Going
Let
back
me,
to the Dear Woman.
We have cameras here. We got to reset them really quickly.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's like
that's
every
fine.
26 minutes or so. So.
Mhm.
Oh god.
Sounds good. Taking a break
Oh.
then?
Well, that was a good half hour there.
Yeah, brother.
That was exciting.
Commercial break. No, those are some good questions, man.
Definitely.
Yeah, we've been like actually we'd kind of sit here and we'd literally bounce this like off each other, you know, and then
Yeah.
we kind of figured, well, why don't we start asking people, you know, what they think and what they believe. So
Mhm.
I pulled like I brought on like a couple friends, you know, for this season, and we started asking them, you know, and they had some interesting responses. So
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, well, let's just
Well,
keep with it, you know.
what you're gonna get from that every time is you're gonna get transparency and honesty,
Mhm.
and it's really hard to fake that. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess it's not. We lie all the time, but I'm saying with that kind of
Yeah.
question, like you're asking me to, reveal a part of myself, and
Yeah.
when you get that, well, no matter what the answer is, whether you completely disagree with it or not, it's still kind of powerful, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we can.
Move into some stories.
It was a really interesting half hour. I think I didn't expect to get that dive into like demons.
Yeah.
I
and
thought it was gonna be
beliefs.
like an answer, and then we just bam, big old conversation.
Keep on
But I
going.
was
That was
awesome
great.
like man.
That was great.
That's good. So I want to hear your story. Let's hear it.
So, Grandma Levon, Grandma Carol, they were sisters to my grandfather. His name was Spencer Cody the first, Spencer Lee Cody. And I called my dad right before this to get the story right. And I'd heard this story in 2 different ways, and I'll explain to you why what you said earlier was really fascinating. But he's a World War II veteran. He died in 1983, a month after my older brother was born. And he told my dad a story towards the end of his life. And by this time, he had been converted to Christianity, and he was He was one of the most solid Christians that from what I understand, my community of people that I admire, that he was a consistent man of integrity. Across the board, you'll get that from everyone that talks about him. But he had my dad sit down and he told him this story. Back in his snagging days, you guys know what that means?
Oh yeah,
Snagging days. Back in his snagging days, he said he went to a 49. You guys ever hear of 49 before?
Oh yeah, we have those here too.
Oh yeah, brother. He's snagging at the 49. So this was back when powwows were not kosher. You know, they had shut these down. I think it was the early 50s. You know, right after he'd gotten back from World War II. And they're out there. What they did is they go to somewhere near the Gap, which is that area of highway south of Carnegie, north of Lawton. And that's that haunted road, that old highway. And they found a field out there. I guess they'd already used that field before. And they had a 49 there. And they got all the cars. They got them, you know, in a big circle. And then they got out and the grass was knee high or whatever. Once they got started and after people started dancing, they set the drums in the middle. They're singing. People start dancing and they're having a good time. My grandfather, again, stone cold, telling this to my dad, who told us, and he's told us on multiple occasions, he said that they were all dancing. And one by one, these cars started backing up. So someone had finally come over to my grandfather and said, "Do you see that woman?" And she's just dancing by herself. And the way Grandpa Spencer said it was, this person said to him, "Look at her feet." And when he looked at her feet, I heard two stories. One, she was floating, no feet, just dress, couldn't see anything, but she wasn't on the ground. The other one was she straight up had hooves. So these people are just, again, imagine, I got goosebumps just thinking about it. Imagine the scene. These cars, just one by one, people are backing up, slow, not drawing any attention if they can, just backing their cars out, driving away. One story I'd heard of that, they pulled out and they booked it. Another time I'd heard it, now I don't know if my dad was just, you know, goofing with us or what, said that she had actually chased a truck out. And by the time they got 30, 40 miles an hour, she was running on all fours and keeping up.
That's dude,
that one may or may not be true, but again,
Gross.
imagine that. So I told that story a few times. I hadn't told that one in probably 10 years because it just, every time. There's just something about it. Again, you got a person who wouldn't lie about that. Why would he lie about that?
Yeah.
To scare his son? Not in a, I mean, if we're around a fire, man, I may embellish some stories, but it's one of those stories when it's a personal moment like that. I tend to believe that was how it was.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I don't know why, but like just the on all fours, that aspect is just so damn creepy to me.
Yeah.
That's gross.
That's
I
spooky.
believe it. Believe
That
it.
is, dude.
And going back to like the origins of Deer Woman, for what I've heard is that long time ago in the old Wild West days, is that this Indian woman was out on her own and she was sexually assaulted by two Indian men and then brutally beaten and left to die. And as she was laying there, during her last moments, a doe came and laid right next to her and comforted her into death. And so somehow from that, the whole vengeful spirit thing, the Deer Woman, I guess, was created. And that she does go after lustful men, lustful husbands, and try to lure them into the woods and try to kill them, try to stomp on their gonads until they die. And so when we're camping, we're always like joking, like, "Oh, there's Deer Woman over there," but for real, like, we're legit scared that we're gonna see these eyes in the woods, creeping right at us. It's terrifying. It really is.
I heard she stomps on you and kills you, but I never heard that she stomps on you in the gonads.
Yeah,
That
dude,
makes it so
stomps
much
you to
worse.
death.
That's what
You
we
know,
heard.
Let me tell you, the most irreverent conversation. I say reverent, not in the sense that you worship her, but again, you don't talk about her to just anybody. And I was working with a guy. I'm a teacher, public school teacher, but during the summers I got to go make that money,
Yeah.
And I picked up a job doing a sprinkler installation, like irrigation work. And there's this Kiowa guy, which you don't meet a whole lot of Kiowa guys where I am. I'm about 2 hours east of, Kiowa Reservation. But there's a Kiowa guy, he's digging too, boy. And we started swapping some stories. And I remember after I finally started to get to know him, I said, so, hey, what do you think of the deer woman? He looked at me and he's like, boy, I'll turn her over and I'll just, he's like, I was like, oh, he's talking about getting her. I was like, boy, she probably hears you, boy. But I started thinking about it.
She does.
I hope she does. But no, he's just like, nah, man, I'd eat that. I was just like, I couldn't believe it. But I was thinking that's exactly the kind of person that I would imagine her going for. Like, that makes sense.
I was not expecting that story to go there.
I was like, what? It was like two different,
you're different people, that's for sure.
Hey, boy. But I'll tell you though, I mean, I've heard the lustful thing, going after lustful men.
Yeah.
Just recently, my cousin's probably gonna hear this, but there's this girl that showed up at my parents' house. She's a little bit older, and he's a couple years older than me. He's about in his mid-30s, and he saw her. He's just like, ooh, his eyes lit up, man. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna try and talk to her. I was like, come on, buddy, come on. And before the end of the night, dude, they're in the back just talking, getting along just great. I was like, what is going on, boy? And I drove away, and my wife was like, how crazy would that be? Did you guys look at her feet? I was like, what'd you just say? What'd you just say? So I joked about it in the morning. I say, hey, I texted him, I was like, hey, you still alive?
I know.
Did you check her feet?
As I was leaving that night, man, I saw him taking a walk down the dark end of the road.
I was
Man,
like,
oh, that's the last time I'll see him.
Boy. He got.
That should have been his first thing. Why don't you take off your shoes? Relax,
Let me give you a foot rub. But
No,
no,
you're one of those freaks that are into feet.
But I've heard that too, though. But you think of it, anytime we talk about it, it's not like, oh, I'm not lustful, so I'm good. It's not that at all. It's always like, if I'm out by myself, I don't feel, if you're in the woods like that, you kind of feeling, man, I gotta watch myself, flashlight in the woods, because you don't know. It's not that lust aspect that you're like, oh, that's a different kind of monster. It's still the supernatural aspect of something that's cross-cultural, something that we were raised to, hey, don't do this or she'll get you. Like,
yeah. And we're also just afraid to see what we don't want to see, because then we get crooked face,
Oh yeah.
Try to rock around for the rest of my life with half my face crooked,
Like when I hear that, I always think of The Ring.
That's exactly it. That's what I think of too, man.
Yeah, that's
we did a dumb video back then where we're doing these funny videos, and for some stupid reason we had this idea. It was like, okay, so we're gonna spoof that scene in the movie.
We're doing a lemon challenge. That's what it was. And I told him I was gonna get the ring face. I made that face. He's like, dude, we should do a video. And
I so freaking stupid. But we're doing that challenge. He did that face. I freaking lost it. I was like, man, we got to do a video like that. And then it cuts too. And we've done the video.
We put it in that challenge, like just mid video, just drop that in. Like, I'm missing for days, and he comes over to my place, and like you can see like lightning flashes in the house, and he comes up, and I'm sitting there at the computer
watching lemon videos.
But instead of like the video of the ring, it's like lemons, but we cut lemons.
Oh my gosh.
He spins me around. I'm like,
rest in peace.
Dude, he spun me around that chair like 20 times, because every time we like halfway around, I'd lose it. I just start laughing.
That's the best. That's the best.
You hear him in the background scream something about lemons.
It's like, oh god, lemons, something like that. You gotta watch it, man. It's on Facebook. I'll send it to you.
All right, I need to see that one.
Oh man,
that's great, man.
Shoot.
All right, so I got a serious question for you guys, and I haven't heard you guys talk about this one yet. Do you guys know anything about medicine men? Do you know any of them personally? Do you have any stories about medicine men? Because we have some stories about some eerie stories about bad medicine. I don't know. I just kind of want to see what you guys think about it.
Yeah, actually, I have some friends that kind of that are into that, and
Mhm.
some friends that even talk about bad medicine and like
Mm.
even thinking about trying it, and I'm like, dude, like I'm not
Yeah.
traditional.
Are they
and what-
natives?
yeah, they are natives.
Okay.
And so when I hear that, I'm just kind of like, whoa, dude, that's kind of like a big step to take, like around, especially in Native American culture. That's a big decision to make.
Yeah.
And we do like our in our family on my dad's side, we have a long line of not just medicine men but medicine women, and
Mhm.
that in the Crow culture, I believe, is not all that common, is it?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
The women.
Yeah.
We have so now that I think about this, I want that dresser. Because I've been collecting like the haunted artifacts and stuff like lately, like the past couple of years. And I don't know, I picked some creepy stuff up lately. I picked up a over 2,000 years old, a mummy.
Yeah.
I guess it was like a.
He didn't get a mummy. I mean,
Yeah,
it's an artifact.
Dude.
Some kind of
Oh, like,
yeah, I got a mummy.
Yeah, it's right here under my bed.
And right there is a.
It's an artifact that was in a tomb, right? And I know this. I met this guy in Colorado this past couple of weeks, and he's an archaeologist, and he's able to get these artifacts and stuff and sell them. And he only had a few at his table at that time, and I saw that piece. I was like, I want that piece. I was like, I've been looking for something like this for a long time. And he sold it to me.
It's like almost like a little statue and some kind of stone.
Right.
And it's a pharaoh, like looking at it. And I was looking at it, and you can see like the little, I don't know what they're called. They look like big candy canes. He's like holding them like across his chest. Yeah. And you could see his, everything, and like pointed that out. And he's like, that's a pharaoh,
Festive pharaoh.
Yeah. It's like, he has that over here somewhere.
So I have that. I have, I think like 3,000-year-old Roman glass, like a glass bottle.
Wow.
I have some of that.
I thought we were talking about medicine, man. You're talking about
No, I'm getting to that story.
Okay.
And we have our last podcast. Tina Marie is sending me some haunted artifacts that she has. She's a psychic. Her family's psychic, and they kind of like shun these art pieces, and she has more artifacts she's going to send
She
me.
has them put away. Out, like that. She doesn't keep them in her out or anything. She doesn't.
Right. But in our
she
family,
still has them.
My dad has this. I guess it's like a dresser. And it's got to be like World War II, or it's like it's old as hell. It's heavy as hell too. It's like iron.
Yeah.
And
God, man, we moved like I don't know how many times, and I'd always have to be the one helping him haul it out because I'm the biggest one, and he's like as big as I'm. Here, help me take this.
So I've always heard this story growing up of this. I guess it's my dad's family. It's a medicine woman. And she outlived, I don't know how many husbands she had.
I think it was like 20, wasn't it?
Yeah, she had numerous husbands. And she was an old woman, but she always got someone our age.
Younger, actually.
Yeah, their 20s, their 30s, and she was well into her 80s, 90s, maybe.
He told me all her husbands were like 21 years old, and she was like almost 90 years old.
Okay, all right.
And the story behind that was, and they didn't know this until...
I'm just kidding.
the end of her life, I guess. Well, she was a medicine woman, and she had her like bundles of medicine stuff, and she made sure that when she was buried, that they would bury her with her medicine because it was bad. She knew it was bad, but she used it still. And I guess every time she used the medicine on these men, they would see her as a young, beautiful woman.
They see her as the most beautiful woman in the world.
Right.
Dang. Shallow Hal, huh?
Yeah. They were 18,
Hope you like
19,
bean dip.
20. Yeah, they were like 20 years old, and she was like literally like 90 years old, and she outlived all her husbands. It's like,
That is insane.
like no, like the
Freaking
part,
bean dip
like
got me.
Outlived them, huh?
no, like it's like when I like thinking about it now, after talking to like my friend who's like tells me all about this kind of stuff, he's like really traditional, and he kind of shares with me all these things, like stuff that I never knew about, and kind of like the secrets and stuff, and now that after talking to him, it makes sense that she outlived all these husbands because using bad medicine, it's going to take something from you. And I have a feeling that's probably what it was take her husbands away from her because she had like 20 of them.
Right. So getting back to that dresser, I guess that was her dresser that she had, and she would keep her medicine inside that dresser.
What?
Well, I don't know. I'll be taking
So
that.
still some of that medicine residue in there, huh? Trying to get a hit.
No, but I've got
Take the edge off.
That's really crazy.
Like that. No, I'm like curious, like feel around in there. What if there's something stashed in there? Because
You know,
dude,
find it.
I don't
No,
know.
I got a pretty crazy story to go with that though. My dad came up to me. It must have been 2007, 2008. He came up to me and he said, "Son, I need to talk to you." And he started telling me about our family medicine bundle. And he said, it's got two powers to it. He said, if you'll call on this medicine bundle, he has the power to let you win in gambling. You'll be as rich as you want to be, or two, get any woman that you want. And he was telling me this, and I was like, whew. And then the last thing he said to that, he said, but I wouldn't do it if I were you. And then he told me the story that his dad told him. Said very similar undertone rather. Said that his dad told him about this medicine and said, this is it. This is what our family does. We have to tell you this, but I wouldn't use it if I were you. And then my grandpa Spencer, the one that saw the deer woman, he's like, I don't believe you. That was before he became converted. And he decided to try it. So he's walking one way down a sidewalk, the other way a woman's walking, beautiful woman, way out of his league. And he, under his breath, calls on that medicine. And again, one of those stories where my dad looks me right in the eye. As soon as he did, that woman's eyes turned right to him, and she started walking across the street towards him.
Well,
and he ran away. But the kicker with using this medicine was that if you use this medicine, you will lose a child.
wow.
Your child will die. And he was telling a story of one of our relatives that had used it and that came down with polio and died at like age 5 or something like that. And I just remember thinking, like, man, just like what you're saying, it costs you. It's going to cost you something that you care about, but if you want to use it, you can use it.
Yeah, and supposedly on our family land, going back really quick, when the government gave out land to the native, like, heads of household of the families, they gave out 100 acres to each family, and by luck and whatever, like, our family still has ours, and it's got this beautiful spring on it. We call it Cat Springs. Supposedly on our land that's been in our family, for 100+ years, that there are a bunch of little kid graves out there that are unmarked because of people using these bundles, supposedly, which is pretty spooky, man.
That's crazy. On that same land, my dad's mom, her side, my dad's mom's dad was a medicine man. And what happened was my dad was telling me the story that happened when they were kids, and how one of my grandmother's brothers was bouncing a ball on the house. Somehow he did it on like the south side of the house, and as soon as he did, his eyes crossed, and they were stuck that way.
And they said that for some weird reason, you were not supposed to throw a ball on that side of the house. That there's something with some weird medicine that you weren't allowed to throw a ball at this side of the house. I'm sure there are a lot of other things with it, but that was
weird
one of
stipulations like that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But the dad came in, smoked them, did something, said something, and then whoop, eyes went back.
Dude, that is
just
so
little
weird,
stuff like
man.
that. Like, you don't know the cost of it. I wouldn't use it if I were you.
Yeah, I was just talking to a friend too, and he was telling me about this kind of stuff, and he said that some people go out at night and start doing this kind of stuff, using these bad medicine. And he said it'll start taking apart from you, like your spirit, a part of your spirit away, until literally you're a zombie. And he said that's like how they are. He said they're like not even themselves anymore. And he said they're literally like a zombie, like it's like they're just monotone the way they talk. It's just not them. And they're always drawn to, like, let's say like the water, like to water spirits and stuff like that, and they're always like drawn to the water, like in like 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, by themselves. They start doing stuff like that, So it's like, it's weird, man. It's like, like talking about like, you know, medicine and the stuff it does to you and how it affects you if it's wrong, if used wrong. It's so weird, like how it can affect you.
Right. I don't think that anybody should be using any sort of, whether that's artifact or herbs or I don't know, I can't say that either because I do a podcast about crystals, but
so it's not to say that all medicine is bad. You just kind of have to know what you're getting yourself into, because traditionally there's like a buffalo doctor in a tribe, which would be like a healing doctor who do good, and there's the owl doctor, which is the one that is more for like warfare and battles and to put curses on people. And traditionally there was a balance where they would help people, and then the owl doctor would keep stuff at bay, keep other tribes at bay. But at some point things got mixed up, and then that medicine still stuck around. My dad told me the same story that he told Justin and offered it to me too. And I'm not sure if that's just a part of the medicine, is that you have to at least offer it to all of your sons, and even if they turn it down. But I got the same spiel as well. And what's weird is that there's a family here in Oklahoma City where I live, named the Longhorn family, and they're medicine holders. And so this is what they do. They're like a bank for medicine for all these native families. Wow. And they've apparently been holding this medicine for the past, I don't know, like 60 years, if not more than that. We don't know exactly, but it's just, there's so many like weird like rules to it and stuff like that it's just, why even mess with it? Yeah. But I mean, I think there's a lot of good and bad stuff, like messing with crystals and stones and stuff like that. And then just like standard like Wiccan stuff where they just mess with herbs and whatnot. Like I feel like all of that's probably in the same realm of what they're doing. But I don't know. I don't know what I don't know, but that's in my opinion is probably what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, like I even like heard like certain things like animals and stuff like, that's our medicine, They have like medicine for like rattlesnakes, or medicine for this, or medicine for that, or medicine for owls, stuff like that. And that's just like a sign that, that it's something's like watching over them, And like around here, owls are really bad.
I'll tell you a story.
I'm sure it's probably the same there. Yeah.
I'll tell you a story about a medicine man that we lived next to. He's our neighbor. And I knew his son because he was one of my best friends growing up. And I've always known that they've had medicine. I always known that they've used medicine.
Oh,
and
okay, I know what you're talking about.
The place we lived in was kind of weird too, because we lived next to them. And sometimes we'd wake up in the middle of the night and we'd hear drumming. Like, so they practice their drumming all the time next door. And they'd go well into the morning, and like we're used to that. So I was like, okay, so they're just practicing. But there was a couple times where we would hear drumming like nonstop.
We'd hear it on like, the side of the house, like where their house is,
Right.
Like we'd hear it like on that side of the house, so like, oh, they're probably, practicing.
And we would hear that all the time. But there was a couple times where we would hear drumming coming from the back room, the opposite direction towards, I guess, the graveyard that way. And we would go outside and see like, okay, so are they practicing or like what's going on? And we would go outside and there would be no sound at all.
Be dead silent.
We would come back into the house, shut the door, and we'd still hear it. They're drumming.
And it sounds like it's right outside the
but
wall.
This family living next to us, like I said, I knew their son. And he always told us, he said, my family's medicine is little people.
Yo, bro. I was gonna say that because around here, like if you hear phantom drums, people are just like, it's little people. Right. And they just they accept it and they just roll with it. It's just like, what?
Right. I was like, what the hell? I was like, what do you mean they're little people? He says they use their medicine, right? Little people, they draw the spirits and stuff, and and they've conversed with them, they've met them and things like that. And he said late at night he would come stay at my house because he was afraid to stay at his house. What? Because late at night he would hear them running around in the house and messing with stuff and talking and things.
Way.
Right? And we didn't believe him at all, right? And this one morning,
he didn't believe him.
Right.
I was like,
somebody's got to have sense, though,
Right. But I guess as like a kid, though, like you're like, oh, you just mess around with me, whatever. But we were, I guess, going into high school. We're probably like middle school now and going into high school. So like maybe like 15, 16 years old. And my buddy who's lived with our family for years and years, he's like, even back then he was staying with us, and we decided to stay awake all night and skip school, play sick, whatever.
Yeah.
And we get up early in the morning, the sun's coming up, so like, okay, let's go outside and mess around a little bit. We go outside and the dad is next door, he's on his porch. And they just built that thing. And we're outside, we go outside, we kind of peek out, and we're just like messing around, and we turn and look, and this guy is holding what looks like a baby, right? It's wrapped up in like this real big blanket. And I was like, okay, so he's got like a baby over there, and he's like, whatever. But the thing was, he was smoking, right? And he was like, it looked like he was praying because he was like doing his directions and whatnot. But the thing that freaked us out was he was smoking, and then he would do this to the baby.
No, dude.
And it would blow
And
smoke out.
it would blow it out.
No, man.
No way.
Right. And that freaked us out. And I was like, they do have freaking little people over there or something. Like, no babies
Oh
even
my
smoke that.
Man.
That's crazy.
That's wild.
I
That
still
stuck
hear
with me,
stories,
yeah.
you know, friends and stuff, like they'll stone cold face too, just staring like, no, dude, I saw one, you know, like they tell the story and they're just like still like look like they're traumatized, man. You know, like dude, it's just so creepy. Like I've have like, you know, friends that tell me stories and stuff. I've never seen one except like the whole thing with the drumming is that's contributed to them. So I'm like, okay, well, I've heard them, I guess, but I've never seen one.
But we have a story also on the reservation that's been documented by, I guess, medical reports, police reports. So we have this round, it's called the Round Hall, and this is where Crow Fair happens. I don't know if you guys heard of that, but it's like one of the, I guess it's like the biggest powwow down this way. They call it the teepee capital of the world. There's like over, thousands of teepees. People come from all over the world, and they'll have this fair. They just had it recently this summer. And there used to be this place called the Round Hall where they'd go and host hand games, and it's been there for generations. And so the tribe finally had this plan to tear it down and build something new. And the thing was, they were inviting, I guess, like construction workers down there that weren't native. They were like white men coming down there to work. And they had natives there as well. They were hiring their tribe. But one of these men goes up, and they have all the ruins and stuff. They're tearing down and stuff, and they're digging through the rubble. And this guy finds a medicine bag. And as he's picking it up, one of the native dudes is saying, "Put that down. Do not open that." And he's like, "You're just messing around with me, whatever." And he opens it.
He told him that as he was opening it, and the second he opened that bag, his face fell, and he had a stroke right there, and he had to
That crooked face, man.
Yeah, he had to be rushed to the hospital.
That's
And
crazy.
That was the craziest
I
one.
believe it.
Because it's documented.
Yeah,
And it was like a big old thing down there when it happened. And like this guy, his face fell and had a stroke, and had to open that medicine bag. And
yeah. I just asked my coworker about that. He's traditional and everything, and he's like, I remember that, and he kind of told me, you know, everything he heard, and I think he knows the person that was trying to stop him. And he told me the whole story.
But it's kind
and
of funny though,
everything.
because
You heard it from a different source, you're saying?
Yeah,
we've talked about this in the podcast, and it's kind of I guess taboo to talk about. But every time there's hand games down this way, there's always a big slew of deaths, whether that's like different families around the tribe, and it's like nonstop.
What are
And
the
it's,
hand games?
it's a you know, a Native American game, and so I guess the story behind it was given to the Native Americans, or given to the or what this tribe, it was given to the Crow people by the animals. They taught them how to play this, and it's like kind of like a guessing game, you know, like guessing, you know, what hand it's in, you know. That's the whole thing, you know. You ever play that when you were a kid, you know? Hide behind your back, and that's the hand games, and they like make bets. And I guess what I heard from, you know, a lot of people, I even actually talked to somebody that's traditional, and he told me that he said that even himself, he used to play it, and he told me that's the devil's game.
Wow.
I heard that a long time ago from some elders too. You know, they said don't go in there, don't go around it. You know, and we never actually really talked about it. So like, man, you know, that could probably piss a lot of people off. You know, but I said like we weren't allowed to go there. You know, and I mean we did. I mean I did anyway. Like my friends would go, and I'm like, all right, man, go check it out, see what it's about. And I'd watch them. You know, I was like, oh, kind of watch them a bit and everything, kind of hang out and get my ass whooped. Get my ass whooped from my freaking grandma or something. You know?
Oh my gosh.
She'd like, it was like she already knew, you know, what were you doing? You know, smack,
crazy.
you know.
I'll tell you a story.
She was like, and then I was told from you know, someone that, you know, if you're in the room, you're in the game, and they're betting for souls, and that is why there's so many deaths right after.
Yeah.
And that's what I was told, you know. And so I was like, all right, well, you know, every time hand games was going on, we weren't allowed to go out.
Yeah.
We weren't allowed to drive around because there's like accidents, people die,
Sure.
stuff like that, you know. And so like we were always kind of like kept in. And yeah, and then oh man, that scared the hell out of me. And yeah.
So is that at the fair or?
No,
They
this is
did.
like a separate thing. You know, this happens
Yeah.
and actually the person we were just talking about, that medicine woman that had all the husbands, she took this guy down there that wanted to see what it was about, and he wasn't Native American. I
was
forgot
our
what he was.
grandpa.
What's that?
It was our grandpa.
Was it her grandpa?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess he took our grandpa there. And he told, you know, she went to show him what it was about. And she went in there, she explained this whole thing to him and told him the exact same thing I told you. And he said, I don't see anything, you know, anything bad, you know. And she covered his eyes with her hands. And he said she, you know, did that for a while. And then she was saying something. And then she pulled her hands away and told him to look. The amount of people in that room doubled. And he was kind of like, started looking around, and he started noticing people in that building that died. They were all spirits. Yeah. So then that's why she said if she was the one that said, if you're in the room, you're in the game. That's why it's kind of, you got to be careful, you know, and know what it's about.
Do you guys know what a masquerade is?
I mean, it's a ball where people dress up and cover their faces, right?
Right. They have them down this way.
Okay.
And I think it was it the hand games or the masquerade where they caught those?
It was a
pictures?
masquerade.
There was a masquerade happening down this way, and there was a picture going around. I think I was in high school.
Oh no, that one was the hand games.
Hand games.
With the picture?
Right.
Yep.
There was I guess hand games happening, and there was this picture going around. This is like back in like the flip phone days where there's like no touch screens, nothing.
Sure. Yeah.
There was one, because the one I saw it on was on a touch screen. It was like one of the first generation
It's probably
touch
like
screen.
LG chocolate or something. But there's a picture going around from the hand games, and I guess this person stood up on like one of those balconies, and he took a picture of the crowd.
Mhm.
And in the crowd, what people were freaking out about was there was almost like a monkey figure, and it was like fully like hair head to toe, and it had a long tail on the back. And then off to the side of him, there was like another figure over there.
You guys ever play Mortal Kombat?
Oh yeah.
You know who Noob Saibot?
I guess
You don't know who that is?
Uh,
He's the all black, you know, figure. He has that spirit thing that comes out of him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Imagine that standing in the middle of a crowd. That's what it looked like.
That's
It's
good.
just
That's
all
spooky,
black,
man.
all black figure, but you can kind of see detail, and you can see the eyes.
You both saw that?
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was in a picture. It was like
Yeah.
going around.
Yeah.
Everyone was like sending it to like
Yeah.
next
My
person.
mom
Yeah.
showed me that picture. I was
Dude,
like,
and that's
so
before you
freaked
could really
out, man.
doctor pictures up, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was,
Yeah, she showed me that, and I was just like,
that's
man,
crazy.
that was so creepy. It's so freaking creepy
I hadn't
looking.
heard that before. I've never
Yeah.
heard that.
All right, I got to reset cameras again.
Oh, my God.
That's what the
Wow.
freaking alarm was about.
That was a good one.
Yo, that's
Hand
crazy.
games. I'd
I've never heard of the hand games before.
They just play bingo around here, boy.
Dang.
Yeah, we got that too.
Shoot. Yeah. Dang.
But yeah, like, yeah, I remember telling them about that, you know, and and we were kind of talking about hand games and stuff like that, and he was like, do you want to talk about that? Because that's kind of really touchy.
Taboo, yeah.
It's really touchy, and I was like, dude,
That's interesting.
well, see if anybody else says anything or has stories or
Do you guys get any
the same
hate
thing.
from traditional natives?
We've actually never gotten any from around here, and which I was surprised about.
Yeah.
I mean, after that I might, but I told him, you know what? Well, he said, like he was saying, he was like, yeah, just talk about it, see what happens,
Mhm.
And the people that actually kind of got upset weren't even Native American.
Yeah, they're upset on someone else's behalf.
Yeah, they're like,
I hear
oh,
that.
like kind of got mad, and they're like, you shouldn't be talking about that if you're not Native American. I was like, my last name takes the horse. I'm Native American.
Yeah.
No, man, we have
Just add that disclaimer. I wouldn't do it if I were you.
we had these we had this at the time our podcast was growing in India, and we're having analytics from up there, and it was like for like
Oh yeah, I remember this.
for like a couple months that was like our biggest demographic was India. And I was like, what the hell, man? And we got so many comments, so many messages, and like they're saying because we're saying we're Indian. And I get so pissed off at us.
I was trying not to spit my water out.
That's crazy.
He kept saying like getting mad at for
Saying
saying
Indian.
Indian and this and that. And I was like, what?
False advertising.
What, bro? And I was like, I'm just saying. It's like, I was like, oh, this guy's from India.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Going back to what we were talking about earlier, my dad told me a story, and this has to do with medicine bundles, and has to do with drums, and has to do with smoke. He sat me down and told me this story right after he'd gotten saved, and somebody had called him out and said, I need you to come pray for my son. He's demon possessed. So he was a young Pentecostal at the time, and
He was like 16 or 17, right?
yeah, he just got
Wow.
saved. He was on fire for the Lord, and he took a buddy of his out to Cali. I don't even remember where it was, Fort Sill area. And there's a Native family, a mom and a son. The son was upstairs, and he's praying, but this demon wasn't coming out. So he ends up, after praying and talking to his friend about it, what should we do? He ends up asking the mom, is there any sort of like occultish or like any sort of paraphernalia that he's been messing with, any sort of demonic thing? She said, well, he's got this medicine bundle. And my dad said, show me. So he went and got the medicine bundle. They took it outside to burn it.
Hold on, really quick. So when like this kid was lethargic, just not really able to like speak or really do anything, but he's sitting in his room, and then when my dad and his friend come in, they're praying for him, the kid just like stops what he's doing and looks straight up at the ceiling. And they're like, that's weird. So he's looking straight up at the ceiling. So apparently that medicine bundle is in a shoebox right above his head in the attic.
Dang. So they take it out there, pray with the guy. They go start a fire, throw the medicine bundle in there. My dad said he heard drums, and he heard a voice calling from the fire saying, if you will come into my smoke, I will make you the most powerful man that you've ever seen.
Wow.
He didn't get in the smoke, but it just hearing those drums, boy, hearing that voice calling from the fire, it's just like,
Dude.
Yeah, and even my dad was saying that, like, he was young and stupid when he went home and told his dad that he was like, why would you do that? Why would you ever mess with medicine? Then you can't destroy it by burning it either. That's not how it works. It didn't just go away. Like, it's still going to be somewhere.
Yeah.
It was just a young, immature thing to do. And he almost, probably almost lost his life by stepping into the smoke too, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Wow. Man.
twisty.
Yeah, you gotta know. You really gotta know what you're dealing with and what you're doing, man.
Yeah.
To like do things like that. Even like they even say like the same thing with Ouija boards. How you get rid of them, how to destroy them. You're not supposed to burn them. And that's like a main thing.
I've got a Ouija board.
He got a Ouija board.
Me, brother. I wouldn't if I were you.
That's what I said. I was like, dude. He was like, dude, look what I got. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm out, bro.
I got all sorts of stuff though.
You want
so-
demons?
Wait, have you played with it?
Because that's how
Fidel?
you demons.
We have
Yeah.
we have played with it, but lately it's like there's like nothing happening. So
Gotcha.
I guess it's. But I have also have a spirit box right now,
Okay.
and I've used that. So it's kind of funny though, because like when I'll edit the videos and stuff, I'll play it while I'm editing. It's like going like for like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and it'll just sit there and go. And I like it sitting there, so I can like if there's something that pops up, then I'll grab that thing and start trying to talk to it. And
Boy, you crazy, man.
Dude, he opened this sucker up and it's like he had his Ouija board there, and he gave me his spirit box. I set the spirit box right on the Ouija board. Heard hello. I was like, whoa!
No.
Dude.
Oh my
Dude,
God.
like right off the bat, man. I was like, he kind of looked at me. It's like, I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off right now.
but
Oh, no.
there was one night this guy was coming over, and I was gonna edit, and my
Thanks.
wife took off to the bedroom, and I was out here by myself. There's nobody around at all, and it was quiet, and you can hear. That's all I can hear. And I was sitting there, and I was getting on my phone and stuff, and I set that thing down, and then I heard the most disgusting, like blood curdling scream on that thing. And nothing really gives me the chills when I hear crap like that, but this one gave me the chills, and I was like, I'm shutting that. And then this guy got here. When he got here, I was like, I want you to turn this on, and we got to see if we can hear that thing again, but didn't happen again.
Thanks, man.
I told him,
No,
I was like,
it
man,
just wants you, man. That's
It's
it.
like, oh, man, I dreamt about this. I ain't touching that.
I told him, man, I was like, if we ever get, he's like, yeah, let's get like all this paranormal investigating equipment and all that. I was like, yeah, we'll do that. We'll get, spirit boxes. But I was like, I'm keeping that at your place. I'm not having that in my house. I can imagine it, me sleeping and at 3:00, hear that sucker kick on by itself.
Yeah.
So we're planning on doing an investigation, hopefully by Halloween. It'll be our
Awesome.
first investigation ever. And I want to go in this direction too at the podcast, is like doing investigations, doing the videos and stuff, and like mixing those together. But I guess we'll talk about this table, because we've been talking about this table for like every podcast now. But getting into like haunted artifacts, my wife has this, I guess in her family, it's this table that was built by a great grandfather. And so right now I think she's 98 years old. It's a grandmother right now. And this was her great grandfather. So it's been in the family for generations and generations. And it's almost like an end table. It's kind of small, what I've heard about. I haven't seen it yet. But this table has been reported also by the grandmother, by the aunties, by the other grandmas, to dance, to move, and to smoke cigarettes. They used to do seances on it back then. Use Ouija boards on it. There's names on it. Everyone wrote their names on it. And for the past 40 years, it's been bound in wire.
And it would levitate.
Right, and it would levitate.
Yo.
And the family is terrified of this thing. Well, some of them are like more welcoming to it. But right now, we tried to meet this table, I think 2 times now. The first time was this man had it on his ranch, and he was open to it. And it's one of my wife's family members. And I said, okay, we're going to meet you and come check it out. And she hasn't met him yet either. And the week we were going to go meet him, he passed away. And I was like, what the heck, man? And then I was like, that's kind of, I had to tell him, I was like, we can't meet that table yet. The guy passed away, and we were kind of like down about it. And they got a new owner, and it was a grandmother, but she suffered from dementia and things like that. And she kept it inside of her storage unit on her property. And we finally got the word, you got the table for your podcast. And I was like, okay, cool. So let's go see this thing. We got it planned out, set a date. Then she passed away.
No way.
But now
It's cursed.
Right. And at her funeral, this thing is so controversial within the family that at her funeral and at the viewing of her, the family was getting together saying, who gets the table next? Like, where does this table go? And then the dad comes out of nowhere, who is now, I guess, my wife's auntie's dad steps in and says, that's my table, because he's the oldest. And this guy is like, he's awesome. He's like open to it.
Cool,
and he wants us to go talk to him about it and stuff like that.
Good.
So,
That's
and
exciting.
our plan is there was I think it was like either a medicine woman or a medium or something. 40 years ago, she comes to the family, doesn't know them. They don't know her at all. It was a stranger that came to the house knocking on their door. And she said to stop talking to that table.
Stop doing what you're doing.
with a table.
Yeah.
Wow.
Don't do any Ouija boards on it. Don't do nothing with it. So ever since then, it's been bound in wire. But now our plan
Because
is
that thing would literally be in the room shaking and moving at night and stuff. So they wrapped it in wire and bound it to the ground so it won't move. I guess that's how active this thing was.
So our plan is on our first investigation, we're gonna order equipment and stuff, and our plan is to do the interview, do the podcast, and then once we get to the investigation, is ask the owner if we can take the wire off, which would be the first time in 40 years to take the wire off of it. That'd be a fun one.
That's exciting.
That's wild. I'll watch that one from afar.
And whip out that spirit box and set it right in the middle of that sucker.
So do you guys plan on doing a lot of paranormal investigating after this?
Yeah, we
We've
want to.
talking about it. You know, we've talked about it for a long time, even before we started doing this, you know. And once we started coming out with these, you know, the more paranormal episodes of the podcast, we started to get invited to places to investigate. And I was like, we didn't even start that yet, you know?
Yeah, they're like the people trying to fly us out to Canada, like deep into Canada, and fly us out to like Chicago and things. And like, we'll fly you here, do your investigation on our ranch or something.
I was like, dude, let's do it, you know? But
That's
we haven't
exciting.
did it yet, but
We just haven't got
pretty
there
cool
yet.
though.
But we're getting there. So
Yeah.
I would love to do it as well. Oren, he's got a spirit box as well. And we messed with it a couple times while we were like filming and stuff, but we're just kind of joking around. So I don't think that any spirits nearby would take us serious. We're taking it seriously at the time. So I'd really try to communicate with us. But I think under the right circumstance, and being more vulnerable, like with, you know, the energy around us, I feel like we could probably get something to communicate with us. I actually just sent you a video in your DMs on Instagram. There's like this old abandoned house near our family land. And one of our buddies like went over to it to kind of just check it out. And his story was super eerie, and how he said like when he went inside, everything just felt so cold and like alone, and it was just really weird. And his brother, who was outside, like had the weird, like a similar feeling. So he called him out, and when he called him out, there was like something up in the window, and so he was actually recording the whole thing from outside. And if you like watch the video in the top corner, it looks like somebody is up there like looking at them leaving, but it's really, you can tell it's not a person, because he's the person in the video coming out, and somebody in the top window kind of looks like a gray, like almost like an alien demon-ish looking figure. And it's creepy, man. It's really weird, but I definitely would like to go to that house and kind of just like, I don't know, investigate, kind of see what we can get out of it.
Do you have any
That'd be cool,
experiences? Like, do you have a ghost story or?
Not necessarily. The only ghost story that I have, I've dealt with some sleep paralysis in the past. The first time that I had it was the worst like night of my life. I'm gonna skip that story, but long story short, I spent 4 minutes in hell, and like Jesus came out and saved me. It was this weird long story. I'll tell you that another time. But over the years, you know, just being a sad human being, I've been kind of used to them, and you kind of find ways to bring yourself out of it. The main thing is like not panicking. So it's just like steady your breathing, and then from there, try to like wiggle a toe or a finger, and then you can slowly start moving your hands, and then you'll be out of it. But a lot of it has to do with like not opening your eyes, because when you open your eyes, you start to panic. And when you open your eyes, you'll start to see shadows moving around. You'll see like figures by your bed, and I saw those for a long time, and they're really, really strange, really scary, and you just like feel like you're gonna die because you can't breathe. Wow. One of the last times that I had sleep paralysis, and Justin, I don't even know if I told you this one, but it was probably like a week after the Kiowa Gourd Clan powwow, and we were dancing. So I had all my regalia in like a plastic tub in my garage that I had on my washing machine, and I was asleep one night, and I had sleep paralysis, and I was sleeping with my back away from the door. My wife was in bed with me, and I could feel it, and I just kept my eyes closed. I was like, okay, you can get out of this. And so as I was just trying to steady my breathing, I felt like there was something in the house. And I from like the front of the house, I heard like somebody walking in the house. And I heard this audibly because my eyes were closed, but it felt so real, like I was awake. And it sounded like an old, like, I don't know, like a cowboy with like cowboy boots on or something like that on wood floors. So I heard these just like real slow. And it started getting closer and closer. It went down the hallway towards my bedroom. And this is when I started to freak out because I got really good at not opening my eyes so I wouldn't panic. But this is the first time they've ever like tormented me just through sound.
Mm-hmm.
And so it slowly started creeping up towards my bed. And the reason why I know this was like maybe a dream was because my dog, she barks at any noise basically. So she would have known if somebody was in the house. So it was just like a weird dream that I was in, but not at the same time. But as soon as this thing got to my bed, I felt this overwhelming sense of peace. And when me and Justin were teenagers, my dad would wake us up, me and my brothers, at 6 a.m, and we'd just pray. And during that time, our family was flourishing. We felt so blessed. Everything was great. And we'd get up even when we didn't want to. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. We'd get up and pray. And it was so hard to do. But after every prayer session, those last 30 minutes to an hour, my dad would end the prayer by saying, "For me and my household, we will serve the Lord." And he said that to end every prayer that we prayed in the morning. And so this is, 10 years later, we haven't done that in a long time. I'm laying in bed. I'm freaking out because it seems like somebody's like walking up towards my bed. And I hear him stand right next to my bed. And then I audibly hear my dad say, for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And then just this overwhelming sense of peace just fills my body. The spirit or whatever it was gone. And it was really strange. And then later that day, I went out to the garage and all my regalia was just like thrown around the room. It was really weird. Like somebody had gone in there and was like, I don't know. I don't know if it was like a bad medicine thing or if I was being attacked by something, but my medicine was on the ground. One of my feathers and my wing that we danced with was broken. It was just really weird. And that's the only time I've ever felt like something like was coming after me, but it seemed like I was protected because my dad, the prayers for the family, like protects us spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really the only story that I've got.
Wow. Shit, I didn't know that. Boy.
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
Wow. That was a good one.
Spooky stuff.
I'll tell y'all one. You guys ready?
Oh yeah.
This was
We got time.
I'd have been in middle school. So early 2000s. You guys know what a VCR is, right? Well, on the VCR, boy, you got that clock that's never set. It's never right. I'll tell you.
Always blinking.
It's blinking. And that's a big part of my story. I swear to you, this is a true story. So I'm sleeping, and I grew up with night terrors. I always slept in the living room. I'd rather sleep on the floor in the living room than be in my bed. Middle school, I'd started working through a lot of that, and I'm sleeping in my room. And I didn't have a bed. I had a futon, boy. It was a pull-out bed. So it was like sleeping in the living room, except it was in the bedroom. I was like,
That was like pull-out couch?
Yeah, pull-out. But I never pulled it out. I just sleep on the couch. It's just, everybody just sleeping in the living room. I grew up doing that. But it was one night I just could not sleep. And I remember I'm laying here on my little pull-out couch that's still a couch. And I just feel something happen. Something different is going on, something I wasn't used to. And their VCR was going. I say it wasn't going, but the clock was. It's just, it's not a whole lot of light, but it's just enough that you can kind of see what's going on.
Yeah.
And I kid you not, my eyes are open. 12 o'clock. And right in that same corner, shadow rises all the way to the ceiling.
Ah, dude.
12 o'clock. And man, I got goosebumps, man. And I'm sitting there frozen. Can't say anything, can't do anything, don't even want to breathe. You're just like, You don't want to let it know you're there. You don't nothing.
You don't want to let it know that you,
You know what I'm
see
saying?
it. Is what-
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
12 o'clock. 12 o'clock. I close my eyes. 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock. You know it. I'm telling you, I knew it. It was moving closer to me. And if that
Whoa.
thing could breathe, it was breathing on me. Just 12 o'clock. Had my eyes closed. And it could have been 5 minutes. It could have been 20 minutes. I don't know, but I was just frozen. And I remember after just struggling there, tense, and every muscle's tense, just desperately want it gone. It just finally sinks out. Jesus. Just as quiet as could be, quiet as a mouse. Jesus. Jesus. And I kid you not, man. Jesus. All the way back to the corner. Jesus. And sinks right back down.
Whoa.
Uh,
I mean, like, still to this day, it's like the scariest I think I've ever
dude,
been.
that like I felt like the hair started standing when he said it
It
started
was-
backing away.
It was wrong, man. It
Oh,
just
dude.
felt wrong.
Yeah.
It's crazy,
Now
man.
you
Can't
know,
explain that.
man.
I haven't told that story in a long time either, but man, that was the one I still think about. Like, people ask me, "Have you seen anything?" It's like, man, I hadn't seen the deer woman. I've seen something that may have been scarier because that was I experienced that.
Oh man, you just reminded me of a story I never thought about in a long time. When I was younger, we had this big room. It used to be 2 rooms, but my dad, I don't know why the hell he did it. He knocked the wall down and made it one big ass room. So my brother's bed
Oh,
was
that was
here.
a long time ago.
My bed was here. You know, we had 2 doors now, 2 doorways in the one big room. And I remember I was sleeping on my bed, and it had to be like maybe 5 o'clock. Like, you know, there was sunlight coming through the window. And so the room is lit up. You know, the room was probably about as lit up as this room is now. And literally, I felt something grabbing me and tugging on me. And I thought it was my brother. You know, I thought he was trying to wake me up. You know, he'd wake me up randomly in the middle of the night and want to do something stupid. You know, so I thought that's what he was doing. And I felt somebody pull on me. And the second I turn and look, it's literally a solid black, like darker than dark, man, figure. And the second I look at it and I kind of jump back, it dives into the closet, and I can hear something hit the wall, like somebody slammed their fist on the wall. And it was just this loud bam. And man, my heart was just, I could feel my heart beating in my throat. You know, that's how bad it was, like beating. And I remember laying there and I pulled the blankets over my head. I was a little older than I want to admit, but I pulled the blankets over my head, dude. I was like so creeped out. I remember sitting under the blankets and I closed my eyes, and dude, I was like praying, man. I was like, you know, started praying over the house, praying over me, everything. You know, I just started really praying, and I could still feel my heart just pounding. And I slowly started, you know, calming down, and I was trying to like, I kept my eyes closed. I was trying to go back to sleep. And then, now this is the part that was like really weird. Like, not that that wasn't weird, but I felt somebody put their hand on me. And I kind of panicked for a minute. I kind of tried to roll over and look. And all I heard was, everything's okay. You know, that's all I heard. And right when I heard that, everything's okay, I glanced, and it was just bright. And it was like I couldn't even see a face because it was like lit up so bright. And it just faded. It was gone. And now that I was like, man, I'd never felt more calm in my life, man. It like calmed me down. And I was just thinking about that I sat there in my bed just thinking about like what just happened, you know? And dude, like, I wasn't even afraid anymore. Like that thing I saw, you know, I just felt real calm and I was fine. And I just kind of went in the living room and just started watching TV. You know, I didn't want to go back to sleep.
Yeah.
I had an opposite kind of story. Mine was kind of different though.
Probably dark.
It was kind of dark. I just got done watching this movie called Devil. Have you guys seen that one?
I've heard of it. I
Is
haven't
that
watched it.
in
No.
the
It's
elevator?
with the other trapped in an elevator.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just got done watching that thing, but it didn't even relate to that. I go to sleep, and my room, I have this closet like next to my bed, and it's like this open closet. There's like no actual door there. There's like these two little. It's almost like those. You got to slide them open, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
shutters or
Right,
something
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Like shutter doors almost.
Yeah,
and
I know. Yeah.
I was sleeping, and immediately I go into the room. Like as soon as I close my eyes, I go into this like weird room, and all I could see across from me was like this thin kind of like light on the wall, like in a corner almost. And I see this thing start appearing there, right? And I hear these voices happening, like it's speaking. I guess now it's like Latin, I guess, or something. And it's talking, just immediately starts talking to me, and it's almost like a whisper. And then he gets louder and louder, and I'm terrified. And in my dream, it's kind of weird. Like I see my like eyes closing and opening at this thing.
Wow.
And as it starts appearing, it almost looks alien-like. Like it has like this long, weird, round head. It's got like a really lanky body that doesn't make sense, and it's like real skinny. And it's sitting there talking to me. And the weird thing about it was I was talking back to it in its language it was talking in.
Wow.
And I don't know what the hell it was saying, but I could understand what it was saying to me, and I was like conversing with it. And I was in fear, and the thing comes out of that like shadow and touches me on the chest. And when it touches me, I have like this gasping sensation, like I'm trying to catch my breath. And I woke up. When I woke up, I was in my closet, and I was gasping for breath. I was trying to get out of the closet.
Boy, that's
What in the
crazy.
world?
I got one. I got another one. You ready? Sequel to the other one, except the VCR. Not a VCR this time.
It's now
It is a
12:01.
freaking 1980s alarm clock. You know, like decibels. You got Jack Hammer, and you got like Jet.
Oh,
This
right.
one, whenever the alarm goes off, boy, it's the radio, but it's like louder than that. It's crazy. It was like this nasty yellow, like aged
And it
yellow.
always has that one bar that's like that never works.
But it's got that big old button. You know, it's like you get so good at it. It's going off.
You just-
You know, like you shut it off almost like right before, man. Just, watch out. But anyway, so similar situation to that. I was in the new bedroom because my brother had moved out. He graduated when I was in 6th grade, 2000, and so I moved into his room, boy, and he had that water bed. And there- you know,
Hey, which was
just like-
formerly my parents' bed, so
you,
you know,
the
they
water
see some
bed in
action.
you scratch your leg and you're moving
Those-
for about 10 minutes.
splash, yeah. And you can hear the. I can't even. So that alarm clock. This time it's not set. I remember that. It was like 12 o'clock, 12:01. Just. I remember almost identical experience. Like you just feel like something's in your room. You know what I'm saying? Like you grew up in church,
Yeah.
and you know what God's presence feels like. It's the exact opposite. So you're sitting in there. Or I was sitting in that room on that waterbed and just can't sleep, not tossing and turning, but just something's not right. And I look over, and there's just enough light from that alarm clock that I could see that my door creaked open. I didn't hear anything,
Well,
but I was just frozen, just looking at it. I'm just, like this, laying down, looking at it. And that door opens up, and it wasn't a gnome, but it was something small. But here's the
Oh,
crazy thing
God.
about it. No joke. Craziest thing about it is those night terrors I was telling you about. When I was like 4, I saw Leprechaun and Chucky in Child's Play. So it was always small things that freaked me out, right? This happened. I was late middle school, maybe 8th grade. And this sucker, whatever it was, opened that door. Again, similar situation, just frozen. And that door opens just enough that this little, I don't even know what it was, comes out, goes back in,
Oh, weird.
frozen,
What the
out,
hell?
in. And it could have been, I have no idea how long it was, but it would just peek its eyes out, back in, farther out, and back in. It's almost like it was a spirit because in my memory, it's like it came out, went through the door, came back, And it just did that. It did that. And I'm sitting there frozen. Same exact situation. Can't say anything, can't do anything. Just want to be anywhere but there. And finally I eke it out. Jesus. Jeez, the craziest thing. Whenever I started praying, faster. In, out, in,
Whoa.
out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. Door closed. That was it.
God.
No
I've
joke.
never heard that before.
Yeah,
Dude,
I
that's
don't talk about it
creepy,
because
man.
I always automatically think someone's gonna think it's like he had a dream about a gnome or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because it
Right.
didn't have that
That
hat
manatee,
on.
man. That
But
little
in my
I don't care what
mind,
anybody says.
it
Gnomes
did.
creep me the fuck out.
Yeah, Mark,
Yeah.
that's like a gnome.
Dude, they're creepy,
He
bro.
would take the garbage
Ain't
out
right,
for like a
boy.
month because we watched gnome videos on YouTube.
Yo,
No
That's
way.
not even a lie. I remember seeing this like supposed to be like some gnome in Mexico, and the way he like walked, he was like jumping and like scaring the hell out of like
The one
all these
time
people waiting for a
we're
bus,
watching
dude.
his-
And it looked like a toy because like the I just saw the hat moving, and then he jumps out of the
thanks.
grass, and you can see his legs bending, and he's like, dude,
We're,
no.
we're
No, man.
it was around that time, and Mark was like, we're watching these gnome videos, and he would not go outside without the garbage. And it was his turn, and he was like, "Hey, Cedel, you want to help me take the garbage out?" And I was like, "Yeah." I
I
was like,
can't
"Go."
carry it all.
So there was the one time when I went outside with him, and I was like, "Okay, I'll go with you." And we go outside, we're all the way to the back, and my mom has this long yard, like it's like a long way to the back, and you got to open like this really big, heavy wooden gate to get out to the back. And we open it up, and I toss mine in there. And as soon as I toss mine in, Mark's still walking up on me, and he's gonna toss his in. And we both hear this like weird, remember that scream down the alleyway. And it didn't sound human, but it would sound like almost like I guess you can categorize like a freaking like a dinosaur kind of weird kind of shriek. And Marcus takes off to the freaking trash can, chucks it in there, and by the time he does that, I'm
I
already
wasn't chancing it. I was like,
I'm already
screw
halfway
that.
to the house.
That didn't sound human.
Yeah.
I was like, I know I'm a
Wow.
lot faster than you.
Nah, that's crazy, man. That's
Oh,
crazy.
yeah, that was
Yeah, Carrie's
funny.
got a story to tell you. He told me he wanted to say this one. It has to do with an owl.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, man.
Oh yeah. Okay. So
You know
we'll.
it's
All right.
I don't know
So
if we're
another
ready
one, of
for this one.
another one of my dad's stories. And actually, I sat down with him recently because I wanted to write it down because that's how like creepy it is.
Yeah.
So my dad would go to his cousin's house when he was about 15, and his cousin DeRoy was about 14. He's a year younger than him. And he'd go out there all the time in the summer. He'd just stay for nights and nights because him and DeRoy were close. And he lived out near Lawton. And right by that house, they lived by the high school, right by the football field and the field house. And that's important because by the field house, there was a street light right above the field house. And they would often sit outside at night on this picnic table under this tree right by cousin DeRoy's house. So, like one night they're hanging out and like just doing whatever on this picnic table. And then right above their heads, they see and feel something swoop, something with like a 6-foot wingspan, just whoosh, and under the light, they see this big owl that just swoops right around the field house and go right around the corner. And they're like, they look at each other and they're like, that was really close. And so as they're sitting there, they can see right underneath that street light, right behind the field house, the corner, an old lady comes walking out.
No
with the
way, dude.
same thing with the shawl, but this time she has a cane, which is really weird. And so they're sitting there, and maybe 100 feet away from the corner of this field house, and they're staring at her. They're sitting on this picnic table, and this old lady just comes right up and starts walking slowly. And they are frozen in fear because they know what happens when you see a big owl that flies right over you. Usually, it's a bad omen, but also it could be, a Stegini or, just a shapeshifter.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this lady starts walking up towards them, and her face is covered, but they just see that she's walking with this cane real slow. And so all of a sudden they snap out of it, and the slave starts moving quicker and quicker towards them, and they they fall back over this table, and they run inside as fast as they can. And a lot of weird stuff happened at this house, but they run inside as fast as they can, and they slam the door, they lock it, and on the kitchen table there's always this Bible right there, and neither of them had ever even looked inside of that Bible before. But they put their hands right on that Bible thinking that like this is good enough. And they just start praying and praying and praying because they know like what an owl means.
Yeah.
Another time really close to that, another weird thing happened was that Cousin DeRoy's dad, he was kind of like a hardworking man, blue collar guy. And when he'd come home, he wouldn't do anything except for he'd sit in his chair and he'd watch TV. And so one time my dad comes through with DeRoy and they say, "What's up, Uncle?" And so they sees him on the couch, and then he goes into the kitchen, and the same uncle's in the kitchen sitting at the kitchen table reading the newspaper. And so they go back into the living room. Uncle is on the couch watching TV. They look back again. He's also in the kitchen. So they take off, and that's another one of those things they can't really explain.
Whoa,
Could it be like an owl type thing? I don't know. It's spooky though.
Oh man, dude. Oh my god, dude, that's creepy, dude.
Dude, doppelganger
is
scores
really
freak me
creepy.
out, dude. They freak
I have
me out.
some of mine. Too.
We have some.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
You have to do a whole podcast on doppelganger.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
brother.
we talked
Dude.
about it, man.
We were at Frontier City, which is an amusement park here in Oklahoma, and they have a Fright Fest every year. And I remember one time we're like, "Ooh, let's spook each other out." So I Googled quick, 2-sentence scary stories, and there's one that gets me every time, and you really reminded me of it, where it says that this dad goes up to tuck his son in at night, and the son looks at him and says, "Dad, can you check under my bed? I think there's somebody under my bed." And Dad was like, "Okay, whatever." He looks underneath, and that his son is under the bed, said, "Dad, there's someone on my bed."
Oh my god.
But no, ever since then, I'm like, man, because it's like something familiar that isn't what it appeared to be. There's just
That's the scariest thing in the world. It really is.
Yeah.
We gotta have you. We should probably, and that's like 2 hours now. But if you guys are up for it, we're doing live streams in October with all the podcasters that we have on. So if you guys want to come back on, do a live stream with us and just talk. I think we'll save the doppelgangers until then, so we have something to talk about.
Sounds good.
We covered a whole lot tonight.
Yeah, it's gonna be a nightmare to title this. Like, what do you even say?
Can.
Everything.
So, Carrie, I want you to plug your Skull Crawlers.
So my name is Carrie Thomas Cody. I am the co-creator of the Skull Crawlers Movie Club. We make horror short films, and we've got 2 on the way right now. One of them is going to drop right before Halloween, and the other one's going to be out in probably November. And you can find us at the Skull Crawlers on Instagram, at the Skull Crawlers, and then on YouTube we are at the Skull Crawlers Movie Club. And you can watch all of our stuff there. But on Instagram is really where we kind of interact the most. So check us out. It's pretty cool stuff.
Awesome, man. I guess we'll wrap it up there.
I've always heard you never trust the person with 2 first names, but you got 3, so I don't know what to think.
and one of them kids.
I don't know what to think about that.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, like,
well, at least
like,
I can.
Even what now?
Yeah, like even like talking like, oh yeah, like I never just say, oh yeah, Carrie sent me this. I'll say your whole name.
Yeah.
It's like a habit. Like, say your whole name. It's like you got to say his whole name.
Yeah, you got to. I even called Justin Cody just because I don't know. It's just something we've always
do it
done.
to each other too. Crazy, bro.
Thanks for having us on, man. I really do admire you guys. Yeah,
Awesome.
man, you guys are the coolest for sure.
You guys do some awesome videos too, man. I freaking love
I
your.
appreciate that. Yeah, man. It's been a ton of fun.
The alien one, man. That one, dude. That one got me, man. I was just like laughing. I love that one.
We tried to make that one as silly as we could. I was actually like a couple days before we filmed it, I was just watching just random alien movies, and I watched Mars Attacks, and I was like, "Oh, Mars Attacks, that's a good one."
Over the top.
So that's when we got the skeleton in there, made it look super cheesy. It was just
It
fun.
was that part where the alien dude, like, you could see his silhouette. You just see him turn.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that we didn't even plan to film. I was just like afterwards, like, did we get enough? Let's just get this just to be sure. And we threw it in there. We're like, well, it wouldn't really work without it. So.
It's freaking
It
awesome.
looks cheesy, but it was fun. Yeah, it was cool as heck.
But that's like, yeah, it is. It's like the old school slasher horror style movies. It has to be cheesy,
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
like the best part of those movies, man.
Over the
That's
top.
my style. Yeah.
I love that, man.
You guys had the longest podcast so far with everyone we've been doing these with. So
Hopefully
was
people
fun.
stick
Let's
it out
go.
the whole way, man.
Yeah, you should cut it into part 1 and part 2. And I'm just
That's
There you go.
I always say that, like, oh man, I'll just cut it in half. No, I'm just gonna put the whole thing out. I'm like,
it's always good that way. So
yeah, shoot, I would listen to a 2-hour episode with you guys. So I'm sure other people would too.
yeah.
man, those are like always the ones I try to find. The longer episodes, like podcasts I listen to.
Exactly.
Like, so I'd have to keep stopping and try to find another one. I like pick a really long one and just go through my day, while I'm working and stuff. So
It's the best. It really is.
So hopefully,
That's cool.
hopefully that's how this is.
Yeah.
So I got Kerry Thomas Cody here. Justin Cody, his brother. My name is Sidelinik. This is Marcus, and you're listening to Fallen Hour Radio. Awesome.
All right.
We did it. Good job, guys. We made it. It is.
I got to get
midnight
you your since you didn't send me your my name is Kerry kind of thing. You listen to Fallen Hour Radio. Want to do that now?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Kerry Thomas Cody, and you're listening to Fallen Hour Radio. My name is Kerry
Hold
Thomas.
on.
Did you get it?
Hold on.
You want me to say anything different?
Wait. 3, 2.
My name is Kerry Thomas Cody, and you're listening to Fallen Hour Radio.
Awesome. Works.
Rock and
Got it.
roll.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Excellent.
Rock and roll.
we
Dude, that was
will